Okay, we're back. Hare Krishna. Somebody give me some feedback here. Let us know that everything's in place and working the way we want it to. Audio's great. Let's just make sure the picture's great. Alrighty. Okay, well, we'll just go from there. Just 1 second here. Great. Okay, good enough. All right, we are set. Hare Krishna. So tonight, what we're going to do, just get checked here. All righty. Okay. Hare Krishna. So, once again, we want to welcome everyone to another evening with me, your host, Chaturatma dasa, and Lives of the Vaishnavacharyas. We do want to start off by thanking a generous donor from our viewing audience at Krishna.com, not just from this broadcast, but at the Krishna.com network, for helping with a very vital piece of equipment for these broadcasts, not only mine, but the other ones that take place here in the studio. It allows us to be able to get better quality recording and better quality transmission of these broadcasts that we do, both during the day when they have the how-to and the highlights from the store, and in the evenings when myself and Mahatma and Bhattahari do all of our different programs. So I want to thank you very much for that and encourage any of you that do like to take the opportunity to help support the work at Krishna.com. It's Krishna.com/donate. And you can go there and do whatever you'd like to do to help out with that. And tonight, we're going to take a little bit different format than we usually take. Abhay, would you look at this? There's nothing coming up in the... something just doesn't seem like it usually does. Usually I have something happening in there.
What's different?
Okay, I guess that's it. Okay, good.
Okay.
All right, so sorry about that. All right, so tonight on this evening's broadcast, we're going to try something a little different. It's something I've been wanting to tackle or to work my way through for quite some time, and we're going to view some of the key events in the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the impact and the lives of the other Vaishnavacharyas, some of the memorabilia that has existed since the time of these great personalities being present on this planet. I've spoken many times about the difference in concept of linear time and transcendental time, if you will. And tonight we're going to look at things in a little bit more of a linear time frame. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he incarnates into this world, comes with all of his spiritual potencies. And those spiritual potencies have, as we've discussed, many different layers of spiritual presence and existence. We, in the conditioned state, view all of that through a very linear presentation. That, in one sense, allows us the ability to appreciate the Lord's activities a little more to our relative sense of existence. At the same time, it allows us to see how the Lord does things when he manifests in this world. So with that in mind, we're going to work through this program tonight. I'm going to be mentioning different dates and events and things like that, and these may be things that you'd like to have written down somewhere. And of course, when the station is able to be made live, then you'll see that you can go back and listen to this and recopy it like that. But we're going to start with the birth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The year is 1486, Christian era, 1486, and it's the 18th of February. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes his birth. Of course, we know in detail from the Chaitanya Charitamrita how Mother Sachi, as was the custom at that time, was in the birthing house, a special room or hut, a building that was set up for the woman to give birth to the child. and the nursemaids, in this case all of her best friends, were there. And so in this way, under the most auspicious of conditions, under the most wonderful arrangement of constellations, and under the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made his appearance into this world. Of course, we know also from Chaitanya Charitamrita that the following day, Sita Thakurani, the wife of Advaita Acharya, who was a very good friend of Jagannath Mishra, made their way by and brought presents and gifts and gave the name of Nimai to the child because he was born under the neem tree. So in this way, we have the appearance of Mahaprabhu beginning our chain of events here. Then in August of that same year, 1486, at the age of 6 months, the Annapushan Prasad ceremony took place. This is the first grains for the newborn child. We do this in all of our ISKCON communities, and we might forget the long history of this activity. But this was, we've mentioned many times, this was observed by all the acharyas prior to us. This was also actually observed by Jagannath Mishra and Sachimata for little boy Nimai. And so they arranged for the giving of the first grains, of course, great pomp and opulence and wonderful ceremony. And then, of course, as was the tradition, various things were laid out to see the inclination of the child, shastra and earth and pen and paper and coins and like this. And of course, no surprise to any of us, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu readily embraced the Bhagavat. So in this way, the religious life was indicated even from the apparent external mundane sense, although nothing is at all mundane in the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this way, he passed his childhood. We know the many stories. The Chaitanya Charitamrita gives great information on this. Additionally, we also find great expansive stories about his childhood to be located in the Chaitanya Bhagavat also. So these two sources are there about the Lord's childhood. Then, in 1494, at the age of 8, he began his schooling. As all the boys in his village, he was sent to the school of the teacher there, whose name was Gangadas Pandit. And Gangadas Pandit had the responsibility of educating the children. Now, of course, Nimai Pandit is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, so what education does he need? But I was just listening to a lecture the other day where Prabhupada mentions that even the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, accepts a guru, attends to the educational activities of a young boy to set an example. How much more so Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, because this was his entire mood, to come as a devotee. Here's what a devotee does to develop love of God. So, taking up his education at the age of 8. And by 10, he has already, this would be the year 1496. 1496, at the age of 10, he's established himself as a scholar. 2 years of training in the school of Gangadas Pandit, and he's mastered everything. Such an amazing intelligence. To us who know him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, no surprise. But this was the path. Now, also, a very important incident takes place in the Lord's life in the year 1496 when he's 10 years old, and that is that his elder brother, Vishvarupa, takes the sannyas order. Now, we know that in her heart, Sachimata held some grudge against Advaita Acharya for this incident of her oldest son taking sannyas. But she was consoled at least she had a younger son at home still, because every mother's concerned, once the father departs or takes sannyas, then the son will take care of me. So she was, of course, thinking in this way. So not so much emphasis was put on it because young Nimai was there, and she would arrange for his marriage, and then she would be properly cared for. So, speaking of marriage, in the year 1500, at the age of 14, she arranged for his marriage to Lakshmi Priya. Lakshmi Priya was one of the local young women of the community there, of the village, and through all the arrangements of the elders, not like today's society where everything is so haphazard and, occasional mixing, whatever, but very nice arrangement, as was the time and culture at that point in history. The arrangement ceremony was made. Srila Prabhupada explains that these marriages at a very young age, generally the way it would happen was that the marriage ceremony would take place, and then the young boy and young girl would go back and live with the parents until they were of suitable older age. Then almost like a second wedding would take place, and then they would move into their home together. So in this way, at a young age, many times the betrothal and the wedding took place like that. So at the age of 14, he marries Lakshmi Priya. And then 2 years later, in 1502, at the age of 16, Nimai Pandit begins his own school. What an amazing feat this is. At the age of 16, he starts his own school with himself as the teacher. So he begins his school. He starts the school with the teaching of Sanskrit grammar, which he's easily mastered. He teaches other subjects there. And in this way, he begins to develop a following. He begins to develop some students. And at the age of 17, with the departure of his father, he makes his way to Gaya. This would be in the year 1503. At the age of 17, he makes his way there, and he begins to address some of the real development of the purpose for which he has made his appearance into this world. So this is 1503. At that time, he also, as we know, accepts initiation while in Gaya from Ishvarapuri. And Ishvarapuri Pad brings him into the chanting of the holy name. And Mahaprabhu reveals when he returns that he has become almost mad with this chanting, thinking he's been infected with some amazing activity. We got a quick question here. What age was the marriage with Vishnu Priya? That was Lakshmi Priya was the first wife. Vishnu Priya is the second wife. The first wife is Lakshmi Priya, and that's at the age of 14 in the year 1500. Well, we've got a little break here. Just want to say hi to Radha Krishna Devi Dasi. Always good to have her here. Our resident archivist. All right, so 1502, he started his own school. 1503, he goes to Gaya, and at the age of 17, takes initiation from Ishvarapuri. When he returns, two things happen. First of all is while he was away, his wife Lakshmi Priya has departed from this world. She has left this world out of separation. Additionally, he has begun to manifest very amazing symptoms of ecstasy, to the point that the disciples that he's developed began to criticize him, began to make fun of him, losing some of their respect. So in this way, he begins to contemplate, and he starts the Sankirtan movement. This would be sometime in the late part of that period, 1509. 1509, he starts the Sankirtan movement. Now, just prior to this, sometime around the mid-1500s, the first decade, he is remarried, and this, Manjesh, is where Vishnu Priya comes into the picture. He marries Vishnu Priya. Actually, it's later part of that, say 1508, 1509. That part I'm not exactly clear about. By 1509, he has developed the Sankirtan movement into full swing. And 15010 rolls around. And at the age of 23, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu begins to take up on the challenges of the local community at that time. The Chandkazi and the preaching and the establishing of the Sankirtan movement throughout the whole area of Bengal there. The following year, 1510, at the age of 24, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepts officially the renounced order of life, leaving Mother Sachi, leaving his young wife Vishnu Priya. She would have been just, maybe 20 years old, 18 years old, some younger age than him by 3 or 4 years. So leaving them, and he accepts the sannyas order. And in the year February of 1511, at the age of 25, he travels to Orissa. He goes to Jagannath Puri, and while visiting to Jagannath Puri, on the way there, he stops and visits the deity of Shakshi Gopal. So it takes him about a month to get there. Actually, it's interesting because I traveled from Mayapur to Puri overnight by train, 10 hours. Mahaprabhu went by foot, took 30 days. So, in this way, in March of 1510, he arrives in Jagannath Puri, and of course we all know the condition of his arriving there is he runs before Lord Jagannath, he faints in ecstasy, the guards think him to be a thief, they begin to maybe beat him and drag him out. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the manager of the Jagannath temple at that time, comes forward and stops them, has the young sannyasi taken to his personal quarters, as I've described to you, just a short visual distance from the Jagannath Mandir. And then he develops a relationship with him. He looks to see that Mahaprabhu is indeed still alive, and then he cares for him. And then Mahaprabhu formally meets Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and we know the story. He spends 7 days and hears from him from the Vedanta Sutra and explains to him all the proper Vaishnava Siddhanta, and thus converts Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to the path of devotional service to Sri Krishna. So this takes place in March of 1510. April of 1510, after spending 1 month in Puri, he then travels to South India, and this is under the with the advice from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya that he meet Ramananda Roy when he goes to South India. And of course we know the wonderful exchange. So this is described very elaborately in the Madhya Lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the meeting of Ramananda Roy and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the questions back and forth, and the information that was shared, and how Mahaprabhu begged and egged more and more out of Ramananda Roy until he brought him to the highest level of understanding the principles of love of God. And then what did he do in return? He manifested his most magnificent forms before Ramananda Roy. So in this way, this took place during that period as he arrived there. Now, when he arrived there, it was late summer, and in the month of August, the beginning, just late July, August, depending on what the solar year is, the lunar year is, late July, early August is the beginning of Chaturmasya. So during that Chaturmasya time, we know he stayed in Rangashetra. And while staying in Sri Rangam, he met one very nice South Indian Brahmin, Vyankat Bhatta. And Vyankat Bhatta had one little bitty boy, little child, whose name was Gopal. Little Gopal. And of course we know how Mahaprabhu converted Vyankat Bhatta to the path of Vaishnava principles of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, and how at the same time he gave his unlimited mercy to Gopal Bhatta Goswami. At that time, of course, he spent the entire 4 months staying there, so the family became very attached. After that, he had to continue his journey. They begged him to stay longer, he stayed a little longer, then he finally did have to leave. So he continued with his tour of South India and then made his way back up. And in June of 1511, at the age of 26, after having spent a little bit over 1 year on the road, he returns to Jagannath Puri. At the age of 26, having toured all of South India, having converted the Vyankat Bhatta family to the path of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, having brought the principles of the sannyasa order with him in his maturity, he now returns to Jagannath Puri. And he stays in Jagannath Puri throughout that entire summer. This is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila as well, the Rath Yatra pastimes, the cleansing of the Gundisha temple. All of these activities are described. These are taking place during that time. And then October of 1514, at the age of 28, he decides to travel to Bengal, through Bengal, and this is when he meets Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis. And he meets them and instructs them very detailed. This here also is told very elaborately in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We can just see how you can't get through Lord Chaitanya's pastimes without the Chaitanya Charitamrita of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So in the Madhya Lila, very detailed explanation is given of the teachings Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the mere age of 28 gives to Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis. And then we know, of course, in due course of time, Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis left their service. They were engaged in the service to the Muslim king at that time. They left their service, and from there, then they made their way through their own travels and their own pastimes, which we've told on other occasions, to Vrindavan. where they arrived there. Now, in the meantime, in 1515, at the age of 29, Mahaprabhu returns to Puri. But he goes to Puri by way of Shantipur. This is the home of Advaitacharya, not very far from the Navadvip area. He's able to kind of go through his old area like that. And from here, his plan is to start for Vrindavan. And we know the story of how he's bathing there, and Nityananda tricks him into thinking that he's in Vrindavan. And then Advaitacharya shows up, and how is it that you're here in Vrindavan, Advaitacharya? And Advaitacharya says, my lord, wherever you are, that's Vrindavan. And then he realizes that Nityananda has tricked him, and like this. So these very wonderful, sweet pastimes between not only dear friends, but pure spiritual associates takes place at this time. So then, after his travels in this way, he does make it to Vrindavan. We know the wonderful story. Mahaprabhu did not stay in Vrindavan very long. Mahaprabhu was in Vrindavan a very short time. Then he returns to Puri. At the age of 30, in June of 1516, he stays in Puri now for the next 17 years, which will be the final 17 years of his life. 1516 to 1522. This is when he begins to inspire and orchestrate the amazing preaching based out of his headquarters in Jagannath Puri, sending devotees out to different places in the all of India to preach, arranging all the different pastimes to take place with the devotees, giving his shelter to all the different associates and Vaishnavas and all the different persons that he would convert to the path of devotional service. So in this way, 1516 to 1522, these activities take place. Now, in that period of time, in March of 1517, while he's in Puri and at the age of 31, Rupa Goswami arrives from Vrindavan, and then Sanatana Goswami arrives a short time later. Now, you remember I mentioned that they had their own path and they were going in this way and that way. Part of that was that they came to meet Mahaprabhu. Then in July of 1517, Raghunath Das Goswami is finally freed from his family responsibilities, and he comes to Puri also. And then in 1518, at the age of 32, he sends Sanatana Goswami to Vrindavan, and Vallabhacharya arrives also. So in this way, we're starting to see the stage built up, not only for what's going on in Puri, but for the instruments that he has that he's sending to Vrindavan. Rupa, Sanatan, already Bhugarbha Goswami, they're all there like that. In Puri at this time, in this 1516 to 1522 period, near the end of that period in 1520, a very unfortunate thing happens at the age of 34. And that is, of course, the passing of Haridas Thakur. Shouldn't say unfortunate, because it was a most fortunate event, but an amazing event. Unfortunate in the sense that the world was robbed of that most precious gem of Haridas Thakur. But this is also a very, very detailed section of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is in the Antya Lila. In the later pastimes, the passing of Haridas Thakur is given like that. Then, at the age of 46, in 1532, this is after all of the different pastimes have taken place in Puri, all of the different associates have come and gone for all the years from the Rath Yatras and have left Bengal and traveled to and from. All of these pastimes have regularly taken place. The activities with King Prataparudra, all of this has taken place. Mahaprabhu has not left Puri in 17 years. So in the year 1532, at the age of 46, Mahaprabhu begins to manifest a distinctly distressful separation from Sri Krishna. And this begins to manifest in all of his activities. He begins to withdraw from public activities, from dealing with the public in any way. And he closes himself up into the Gambhira and begins to manifest the deepest and most intimate symptoms of ecstasy. These are witnessed only by a small handful of devotees. Govinda, he is of course one of the most intimate devotees to serve the Lord during this time. Sarup Damodar Goswami is there making notes of everything and assisting the Lord in this way. So In this way, he begins to close himself off to anything except those activities that will facilitate this immense mood of separation, which is the highlight of the philosophy he's teaching. Gopi Bhartu Padakamalaya Dasa Dasa Nudas. Following in the footsteps of gopis, whose highest love for Krishna was manifested in their separation. In the same way, he begins to manifest this himself. And then finally, at the age of 47, in the year 1533, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu departs from this world. In the most amazing way, he enters into the Tota Gopinath temple, which many of you may have been to Puri and know that it's not that far of a distance from the Puri temple itself, just near the ocean. He enters into that temple, draws the curtain, and disappears. The understanding is that he has manifested himself, merged himself into the deity of Tota Gopinath. Actually, they say there's a gold mark, a golden scar, if you will, on the upper thigh of Tota Gopinath that you can see if the pujari is kind to you. So in this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in a short 47 years, has accomplished amazing activities that have brought the complete rebirth of the Krishna consciousness devotional process, of this entire line of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And he has set all the stage for the different activities that we follow ourselves today. The Rath Yatra festivals, the going out and preaching, the engaging in kirtan, the performance of Sankirtan, the vigorous preaching and spreading of the message. So in this way, all of these activities have been honed and developed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for us to follow. So this is a very brief little year-by-year look at the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now I want to cover another aspect here. Okay. During Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lifetime, he used many things. Actually, a little side story. I had the opportunity in 1975 to be part of the cleaning crew for Srila Prabhupada's personal quarters. I told you, Manjesh, keeping notes would be a good thing to do. Bhakti and Carol, reboot your computer if you've got things going off, because we're doing good from this side. Okay. You can cut this when you edit it. Okay. So, in 1975, I had the opportunity to be part of the group of devotees cleaning Srila Prabhupada's quarters in Chicago. And of course, back then, we were able to get a bar of soap or a towel or this or that. But, we thought these things would last forever. We imagined Prabhupada would be here forever. So some of us didn't value those things as much as we should have. Instead of cherishing that bar of soap, we used it. Instead of keeping that towel, we gave it in charity to a friend who we felt great fondness for. So in this way, sometimes we just thought Prabhupada would be with us forever. We'll just get it next time around. But, as is the nature of this world, Srila Prabhupada was not able to stay with us forever. His physical manifested pastimes had to come to their end, as every physical aspect of this creation does. So, in the same way, Mahaprabhu physically removed himself from this creation, but he left behind different types of memorabilia, different types of items that he had used, that we can see some of those items still being worshipped, having come down, passed so carefully from one devotee to another devotee, from one family's generation to another generation, like this, over the last 500 years. So I thought it would be nice to examine where some of these items are found and what some of these items are. Here again, these are different things which, if you're inclined, you can write some of this down. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, wore the traditional wooden sandals of a sannyasi and a devotee at that time. This was the traditional wear. They didn't have rubber flip-flops, and there weren't any Velcro sandals back then. So the traditional peg sandal was what was worn. And of course, Mahaprabhu didn't have just one pair throughout his entire life. Different pair in different places. Different temples would provide, different devotees would give like that. So there's one place in the Gambhira. The Gambhira, for those of you that may not know this word, this is the room of Mahaprabhu's final pastimes. If you go to Jagannath Puri, you can go to the place of the Gambhira and see this room. Very small room. And this was the residence there. And in that room, they have a nice shrine to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they have three things there. They have a pair of his wooden sandals. They have the clay water pot that he used for carrying his water in. And they have the quilt that he used for wrapping himself in. So in this way, this is found in Jagannath Puri at the Radhakanta Mat. This is a very nice temple where they keep these things, and you can go and take darshan there. So this is one place where some of the personal items of Mahaprabhu were found. Now, a piece of Mahaprabhu's chadar, Mahaprabhu's entire chadar, the upper cloth that he wore, this is found at the Madan Mohan Mandir in Bhadrak district of Orissa. This is another place there where Mahaprabhu traveled, and the devotees there were able to get the chadar, and for generations it's been passed down and worshipped in this way. A third item is another pair of shoes, another clay pot, and some piece of cloth from Mahaprabhu. And this is at a place called Varaha Nagara. This is in Calcutta. This is the devotees have been able to get these things from the Lord. And just as we get something from Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Carol's mentioning that she's kept flowers from her Guru's garland for the last 5 years. So in this way, these devotees have kept these things for 500 years and have been able to carefully care for them. I bet Radha Krishna Devi Das is just dying to know what kind of care they're taking for the cloth. What type of arrangements are being made for all of the longevity of these things. Actually, we should send you, Radha Krishna, around to all these holy places we're listing tonight to instruct them how they should properly care for everything. Professional archivist. So, the fourth item that we're going to mention is the wooden seat. It's called a choki. Little wooden seat. It sits off the ground about this far and different sizes. And this was what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was using. And it was sent by him from Puri to Vrindavan. And it was sent to Gopal Bhatta Goswami and is to this day in the treasury house at the Radharaman Mandir. This is many different biographies mention this. I've personally seen it myself. Very, very wonderful to behold this. They also have one of Lord Chaitanya's dhotis there. This was sent by Lord Chaitanya to Gopal Bhatta Goswami at the same time. So in this way, those activities are there. We know, I've told the story previously, how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu paddled himself across the Ganga to see Gauridas Pandit in Ambika Kalna. And that wooden paddle is at the Gauridas Pandit Mandir in Ambika Kalna. And this story is described very elaborately in the Bhakti Ratnakar. So in this way, we have another thing, not just the shoes or cloth, but this paddle that he used. And then we have Sri Nityananda Prabhu's turban. Now, of course, we know many times the description is given very colorfully, how Nityananda would sometimes be dressed in the most fabulous of turbans and nothing else. He was an avaduta in the first order and would carefree go about in this way. So one such turban is the home of Sri Haridas Goswami in Navadvip. This has been passed down in his family line like this. And then Lord Nityananda, being a dutiful householder, he had his shalagram that he would worship. And he had an Ananta Shila that he worshipped, and a wooden walking stick that he used. And these are in the Kadadaha Mandir in Bangladesh. This is where the activities of Lord Nityananda's later pastimes were before leaving this world. And so in that temple there, they have these, his Ananta Shila and the walking stick he would use. Now that would be a shalagram to worship. Huh? Okay. Also, you'll remember when Sanatana Goswami was coming to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his brother Tapan Mishra gave him a very fine woolen blanket. And when arriving in Puri, he could understand that Mahaprabhu was not happy that he had this woolen blanket. So now he has traded this woolen blanket to one mendicant. That woolen blanket, that Bhutanese from Bhutan, Bhutanese woolen blanket, is in Etoya, which is a village on the banks of the Jamuna River. That blanket is kept there. Another thing we find is Sri Abhiram Thakur's whip. Sri Abhiram Thakur, remember, had that whip, bamboo whip called Jai Mangala, and he would strike someone with it and they would get complete love of God. Such an amazing thing. And also, he had one stick called the Brahmadanda. That was his walking stick. So these are found in the Kanakulya Krishnagara temple in Bengal. Kanakulya temple in Krishnagara. Krishnagara is not very far from our Mayapur temple there. It can be gotten to very easily, and one can go and see these things. And then at the Haridas Thakur Mandir and Samadhi in Orissa, in Jagannath Puri, Orissa, they have the bead bag and walking stick of Haridas Thakur. The bead bag and walking stick that Haridas Thakur personally used. Now, you'll remember also, there's the wonderful story of Sri Raghunandana Prabhu and his dancing. And this amazing dancing and his losing an ankle bracelet, right? So, some of the ankle bracelets from Raghunandana Thakur are in the Mahantabati temple, which is in Kudyagram in Vardhamana in Bengal. So these places are all given, and if one has the inclination, if one has the facility, they can go and visit all of these places. Then we have Srinivasacharya, Narottam Das Thakur, and Shamananda. These three traveled together. So the wooden shoes of Srinivasacharya, these are in Vana Vishnupur. Vana Vishnupur, of course, is a very important place in the pastimes of Srinivasacharya. Then in Shripat Gopi Ballavapur, this is the birthplace of Rasikananda. We find there that Rasikananda had his neck beads and his quilt in this place, and they're found there. Then we have also the sitting place, the choki, the seat of, actually it was a stone seat, not a wooden seat, but a stone seat of Lochan Das Thakur. And this is what he would use when he was sitting and writing the Chaitanya Mangala. And this is also in Gograma at Vardhama district of Bengal. So these amazing things from the actual activities of these great devotees that we've discussed over these last few months, of the pastimes of these devotees, these are actually many of them able to be found, and we're able to take darshan of them. If one has the inclination and ability, the opportunity is there. So, now I want to discuss some of the original handwritings that are available. Many of these, some of these at any rate, are directly from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hand wrote a copy of the Bhagavad Gita. This is told in the Bhakti Ratnakar, this particular story. And this handwritten copy of Bhagavad Gita by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was found in the Ambika Kalna temple of Gauridas Pandit. This is there just in Bengal, as we've mentioned many times. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took notes. You know how sometimes while we're studying we write notes in the margins and paragraphs of a book like that, or underline something. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the handwritten notes between the lines of Bhagavad Gita that was written by Gadadhar Pandit. So it's Gadadhar Pandit's Bhagavad Gita. Mahaprabhu has studied it, read it, written notes between the lines in it, and that is in the temple at Bharatpur. So one can find that Gita there. Then Mahaprabhu had handwritten notes on the Srimad Bhagavatam. This was a manuscript for Srimad Bhagavatam that he had just made some notes like that. This is found in the Denuda in the village of Denuda, Varahanagar city, at the Patabadi library there. So there's an actual library that has in it not just books on fiction and history, but actually notes written by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then the Bhagavatam that was written by Gadadhar Pandit. We all know the story of Srinivasacharya going to learn the Bhagavatam from Gadadhar Pandit and then having to go back because of tears and get a second one. In this way, this Bhagavatam is found at that same place in Denuda. So then, of course, we have the Goswamis. Now, we know Rupa and Sanatana were instructed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu specifically to write literatures. So many of the literatures they wrote, the original books, are found at the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan. Many of these books are actually found there. Now, of course, Jiva Goswami had some of them buried in the Grantha Samadhi, the book Samadhi, which is right across from Rupa Goswami's Samadhi at the Radha Damodar temple. But in the libraries there, they have these books. And then another thing is the copy, I'm sorry, not copy, but it's the handwritten Srimad Bhagavatam of Vrindavan Das Thakur that's in that same library in Denuda. And then there's an amazing thing. It's a letter Raghunath Das Goswami has written pertaining to the activities at Radha Kund. And this is kept in a library at Radha Kund. And then there's another thing. It's a bill of sale. I've seen this myself. It's a bill of sale for Radha Kund to buy for the land and for Radha Kund itself to Raghunath Das Goswami. And this is in a library there in Vrindavan as well. So these are very many amazing actual writings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His associates that are found in these different places here. And one is able to go to these places and take darshan, and if one is maybe fortunate, touch these books to their forehead. Although probably Radhakrishna would object to our touching any of these ancient books because they would probably crumble apart. Now, there are different places where the Lord has left His footprints. When Srila Prabhupada was present on this planet, some devotee, I believe it was Kirtanananda as the story goes, had the good sense to ask Srila Prabhupada to step into a mold of plaster Paris to get a mold of his footprints. And then in this way, these are the footprint molds that we have all over our society that are used at our Vyasasans. So there are different places where other great Vaishnavas and the Personality of Godhead Himself have their footprints. For instance, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's footprints in stone are found in Jagannath Puri at the Jagannath Mandir. Now these were previously inside the Jagannath temple. These are were in the Jagannath temple, but they've been recently moved, however recent is, to a small temple near the north gate of the Jagannath Mandir. So one can go there and get the darshan of these footprints of Mahaprabhu right in stone. And then there's an impression of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's full body dandabats, full prostrated dandabats, all out like this. And this is in the Alanath Mandir, which is associated with the Jagannath temple. It's about 14 miles from Jagannath Puri. So one can go there and see this place. And Sri Advaita Acharya has left a set of his footprints on a grinding stone at the Jadu Mandala in Vrindavan. You remember he went to Vrindavan. We've described this in his pastimes and was there for some time. And while there, he left a set of footprints. Now, speaking of Vrindavan and footprints, Krishna's footprints are all over Vrindavan. And one of the places is there's a mountain in Kamyavan. A small mountain, but there's a mountain in Kamyavan called Charana Pahadi. It's one of the main 12 forests of Vrindavan, Kamyavan. And atop this mountain are the footprints of Sri Krishna. And then, of course, in Charana Pahadi, in the village of Baitana, I'm pronouncing these all wrong, I'm so sure. But anyway, in Braj there, at this place, are also another set of Krishna's footprints with, next to them, the hoof prints of a cow. And then, of course, there's that famous place on Govardhan, where there's the rock that bears the footprint of Krishna, and the hoof print of the cow, and the impression of the cowherd boy staff, all right there. And then at the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, and also at the Radha temple in Jaipur, they have a Govardhan Shila that has Krishna's footprint on top of it. At both places they do. And then there is, of course, the famous Govardhan Shila, which is currently at the Radha Gokulananda temple in Vrindavan, that was handled by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and it has his thumbprint in it. And this Govardhan Shila was given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Raghunath Das Goswami. And Raghunath Das Goswami has placed that Shila here when he was residing in Vrindavan, and his deity is worshipped there. This Govardhan Shila is worshipped there at the Radha Gokulananda temple there. So these are some of the different places where the impression of the Lord's feet or his body, or in the last case his thumbprint, have been left for us to go to and worship and take the dust of those places. Now, when we talk about worship, this denotes the deity. And there are many famous deities that have been installed, and I thought we would look at some of those this evening as well. There's the famous deity of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that was established by Srimati Vishnu Priya. After Mahaprabhu left and took sannyas, she worshipped this deity daily. She would chant the Maha Mantra and would put a grain of rice aside for each mantra and then cook and offer that to this deity, and this would be her only foodstuff. So in this way, she worshipped Mahaprabhu through the form of this deity. And that deity is there in Navadvip. This is mentioned in the Chaitanya Charita of Murari Gupta. And then the famous deities of Gauridas Pandit, the Gaurnitai deities, we've told this story so many times, those are found in Ambika Kalna. And then there are deities that were established by Murari Gupta, and these are deities of Gaurnitai, and these are also in Vrindavan as well, at the Banakandi Mahadev temple. So Murari Gupta, when he visited Vrindavan, established these Gaurnitai deities, and they're still worshipped there to this day. And then there's the Gaur Govinda deities established by Kashishvar Pandit. These are worshipped at the Govinda Mandir in Vrindavan. So Kashishvar Pandit, of course, one of the famous associates of Mahaprabhu from his Puri Leela. And then we have the deities established, the Gaurnitai deities established by Mahesh Pandit. Mahesh Pandit, one of the great cowherd boy associates of the Lord, and Chakadaha and Palapadha. These are where these deities can be found. And then Jagadish Pandit also worshiped Gaurnitai deities. It's not surprising that all of these intimate associates of Mahaprabhu, after he departed from this world, they all established worship of his deities, he and Inanda, because they were their eternal associates. And while they were here in separation, they wanted to worship the form of the Lord. Now, there were 3 deities made of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu while he was present on this world. One was established by Narahari Shakar Thakur at Srikanda. The second was installed by Gadadhar Das at Kataya. And a third was installed by Kamshari Gosha. And this was at Ganga Nagara. So these are the 3 deities that while he was present were established and worshipped. Now, there were deities, famous deities of Lakshmi Priya and Mahaprabhu that were found by Narottam Das Thakur. We know that famous story of him going to the grain house of the Brahmin Vipra that was filled with snakes. And when he eluted the particular mantra from his mouth, he gave it out, all the snakes left, and he went in and saved this deity of Gauranga and his consort, his eternal consort. So this deity was established by Narottam Das Thakur. This story is also mentioned in Bhakti Ratnakar. And then we have the famous Gopinath, Shirakor Gopinath deity that's in Ramuna. If you ever get the opportunity to go to Puri, you must also go to Ramuna, and you must take the sweet rice that is offered to the deity there. It is the most amazing prasad. And then, of course, the Gopinath deity of Abhiram Thakur. This is in Kanakula Krishnanagara. This was the famous deity that he worshipped. And then we have the Tota Gopinath deity. We mentioned this Tota Gopinath deity in Puri is the deity that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wound up his manifest Leela by entering into this deity. So these are some of the famous deities associated with Mahaprabhu or his immediate associates. But then we have the deities of the Goswamis of Vrindavan. These are very important deities. For instance, the Sri Govinda deity, this was established by Rupa Goswami in Vrindavan, and now that deity, we know, resides in Jaipur. And then we have the deity of Sri Madan Mohan, which was established by Sanatana Goswami in Vrindavan, and now resides in Karoli. Very, very wonderful place to go there. It's just like Vrindavan was in the old days there in Karoli. And then, of course, the Sri Radha Damodar deity of Jiva Goswami. This deity was established in Vrindavan and is now worshipped in Jaipur as well. These are the original deities. The Pratibhu are the manifest in that particular place, expansion deity. These are considered completely non-different. Therefore, one has the full benefit and potency if one goes to Vrindavan and worships and takes darshan of these deities. Then we have the Radharaman deity of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. This deity, of course, manifested from the Damodar Shila. We've told this story many, many times. This was the deity of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And then the Gopinath deity of Madhu Pandit Goswami, which was in Vrindavan and has now been relocated in due course of history to Jaipur as well with the other Vrindavan deities. And this is where, if you remember the famous story of the coat of Madhu Pandit, the Tulsi bead coat, which has been rescued and that area renovated by the blessings of Indradumna Swami. Indradumna Swami was just telling me that this fall at Kartik time, they're going to be in Jaipur and inaugurate the opening of this samadhi and this coat of Madhu Pandit on his festival and the disappearance day of Madhu Pandit. Be a wonderful festival. And then the Shamsundar deity of Shamananda Pandit. This deity is also residing there in Jaipur now. And then last but not least of the Goswamis, we have Sri Gokulananda. This was the deity of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who's in Vrindavan, along with Radha Vijay Govinda of Baladev Vidyabhushan, and the Chaitanya deity of Narottam Das Thakur. These are all worshipped there in the Radha Gokulananda temple in Vrindavan. So these are the great different deities. Now, we can't wrap this up without mentioning the famous 6 deities of Narottam Das Thakur that he established at the Katuri festival, and these were inaugurated under the arrangements of his cousin Santosh. And these were, of course, the deity of Gauranga, Balabhikanta, Radharaman, Braj Mohan, Radhakanta, and Sri Krishna. Now, Janavamata has written one nice prayer describing these deities. Gauranga, Balabhikanta, Sri Krishna, Braj Mohan, Radharaman, Hey Radhe, Radhakanta Namostute. These 6 deities, and when Narottam Das Thakur was departing from this world, he called out to these deities, O Gauranga, O Balabhikanta, please be merciful to this materialistic person. O Radha, O Krishna, O Radhakanta, O Braj Mohan, please rid me of the agonies of this material world. O Radharaman, I lie at your feet. Please bless me that I can remember you in life and in death. So these 6 deities, the deity of Gauranga is located at the Ganganarayan Chakravarti house, which is just a little north of Sri Mayapur Dham. And then the deity of Balabhikanta is located in Dwarka. The deity of Sri Krishna was worshipped after Santosh Dutta's departure in his family line. This was left with the king of Kituri, and then it was later given to one Brahmin family. And then the Muslims took over all of Bangladesh, and the whereabouts of this deity are to this day unknown. And many people have searched out trying to find this deity. Then, of course, we have the Braj Mohan deity. This deity is residing in Vrindavan, one of the nice temples to visit in Vrindavan. And then we have the Radhakanta deity. Radhakanta lives in Puri at one of the Gaudiya Math temples that has beautiful hanging gardens. Very, very nice place to go. Very peaceful and quiet in the evening. Nice place to do bhajan and chant japa. And then last but not least is the Radharaman deity. And I fail to remember where this deity is located. So in this way we have all these different famous deities that are worshipped. And we can see how this brings us with a very long line of association with the different pastimes of the Lord and the different activities of the Lord and the paraphernalia associated with the Lord. So these are things that we can aspire to hopefully one day take darshan of. But if by chance we can't, the process given to us of hearing and chanting allows us that benefit of hearing about these places and getting some benefit from being able to understand this paraphernalia of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his associates like this. So these are some things that I've been kicking around. I wanted to share with you tonight. I hope that this has been of some interest, and that it has given some encouragement that you'll try to go to the Dham and visit these different holy places and try and understand a little bit more about these pastimes. We're going to end there this evening. It's just coming on 9 o'clock. Anyone that's in the chat room that has any questions, looks like we've only got 3 or 4 people in there. If you have any questions, anything you'd like to pose, I'll be happy to do what I can to answer them. We do want to remind the devotees that this broadcast is brought to you by the devotees here at Krishna.com, and very nice service that they're doing, and we always have great appreciation for the service they're doing of bringing all these different aspects. And especially if you go to the new Krishna.com website, you just see how much energy they put into revamping everything and giving such a nice presentation there. It's so wonderful. So we want to thank all of them. We want to thank all of you for encouraging us by staying tuned over all these different shows we've done, and remind you that we will return in 2 weeks. That's 2 Mondays from now, with another episode in the lives of the Vaishnavacharyas. Thank you very much. I'm your host, Chaturatma Das, and we look forward to hearing from you. You can also find me on Facebook, Chaturatma Das. If you've got anything further, any questions, I'd be happy to discuss with them. We've got some items noted here. When was Prataparudra Maharaj's pastimes and the later Rath Yatra pastimes? Those later Rath Yatra pastimes, Manjesh, those would be in that period 1516 to 1522. So that's 6-year period there. This would be when all of these different activities are taking place. Actually, is that correct? 15. Yes. 1516 to 1522 would be the period in which the successive Rath Yatras and the devotees coming and the kirtan being established and his giving his mercy to Prataparudra Maharaj and like that. That's when we can find that out. Yeah. 1510 would be a bit early, because 1510 was when he just arrived in Puri, met Sarvabhauma